This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 7th year. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Hey, it's Alex, and it's the Ramble. Here we go one more time from New York, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, the man with the hat. Oh, I love that hat. It looks great on you.
Thanks.
What is that? This is Stephen Kravitz, by the way, as you can see on the screen down there. It says it. Okay. What kind of hat is that again? I asked.
It's a pork pie.
That's a pork pie? Okay.
Right.
Does it have a little ridge in the top at all? Let me see here. No, I guess it's flat on top. Yeah, I guess that is pork pie. Yeah. Where did you get that?
I bought it online.
Online?
Right.
And how much was it?
$65.
Wow, that's an expensive hat.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, this thing was free.
Right.
People send me caps all the time, so.
Do they really?
Well, this guy has a company that actually makes testing devices for COVID.
What's it called?
Cephide.
Hmm.
Makes a great
Oh,
cap.
yeah.
I got another one's white, really nice. But, yeah.
Oh, it just sits your caps.
Yeah. So anyway, the last time we were talking about what we were talking about the United States not being culturally adroit.
Right. Right, according to the people in Europe.
Well, this town is a cultural sewer. You know.
What's that, New York?
Yeah. No. New York isn't a cultural sewer. It's very cultural, but the rest of the country is a cultural ghetto. I mean, there's no culture anywhere.
Right.
Well, what do you got?
Right.
What do you got? You know, you got people missing a tooth. No offense intended.
Right.
Missing teeth and playing banjos, and having no culture whatsoever, and no idea of what culture is. That make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And
As we just annihilated 3/4 of the country.
I don't give a crap. Nobody watches this thing anyway. You know. So
Is that right?
Why not alienate the rest of them? No, I think it's a cultural problem here. There's no culture here. You know?
No.
You go to another country and they're very steeped in their culture.
Well, they go back centuries upon centuries.
That, for starters, and they just seem to admire the arts and culture. And so
Right.
maybe I'll leave England out of that, because I think England's kind of not as cultural as a lot of the other countries. I mean, you go to France and you're just so steeped in culture you can't believe it. You know.
And the other thing is, in France, they respect their elders. You see a lot of old people walking with their like grandchildren or teenagers.
England too. I mean, most of the European countries are very good to their seniors. You know?
Right.
I mean, you don't have to worry about anything when you get older. You're not going to have to worry about being homeless or anything like that. There's always something that's out there saying, "Well, come deal with us. We'll help you." You know?
Right.
And the attitude about older people is that you did your part for this country. Now it's our time to take care of you. It's what children do for their parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Very much so in Europe.
Yeah. And the children don't have to do it because it's taken care of by the state.
Right.
Which is a great way to prioritize your money. Okay? I mean, if you're going to spend money on stuff, what a better thing to spend money on than your old people.
Right. Right.
The people who have been around and they've paid the taxes and they've worked the jobs and they've made the country hopefully what it is. You know? I think
I had a part in it anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, you've been to, the other problem is you've been to Europe.
Yes.
You've lived in France.
Right, for 2 years.
In fact, he was a very hated thing in France. He was a mime. Oh no, what was it called? You
No,
didn't
I studied physical theater.
physical theater. Still the same thing as a mime. Anyway,
No, it isn't.
how does it differ?
You can talk.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like the Marx Brothers are physical theater. The Three Stooges are physical theater.
Not good physical theater, but
No, but still physical theater.
yeah.
They're the buffoons.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you basically, I'm trying to think of the equivalent here in the United States because we've never heard about physical theater over here. Okay.
Keaton, Chaplin.
Keaton, Chaplin, yeah, but they didn't call themselves physical theater. They just
No, they were just comedians.
They were whatever they were, you know.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people never come up with a definition of, for instance, as an example, Buster Keaton.
Right, Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd.
Yeah, they've never come up with silent film star, silent
Right.
film comedian, but there's never a comedy title that you could put on what they did, you know, and they were brilliant. I mean, I was never a big Chaplin fan, but I know
Right.
I understand his brilliance.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I understand what he did. You know, actually, Chaplin wasn't he was influenced by somebody, and it was a guy in, I believe, France, and I'm trying to remember his name now, because I saw some stuff by him the other day, and he was, in fact, Chaplin even admitted that he was very influenced by this guy who came before him. So, you know, you'd have to almost think of this guy as one of the genesis of what you saw in
Right.
film. But it was funny. The Chaplin was very famous, okay, and he played the little tramp, and he did a certain kind of thing. It's interesting that nobody who came after him and was successful tried to imitate that. They tried to come up with their own thing.
Right.
You can't compare Buster Keaton, who is my favorite, beyond
Okay.
a shadow of a doubt. You can't compare Keaton to Chaplin. There was no comparison. They didn't do the same thing.
Right.
You know, the comedy was completely different. The takes, you know, and then you had Harold Lloyd, who was completely different from either of those.
Absolutely.
Where they wore kind of costumes, and they, you know, what's his name? McKeaton had the hat, you know,
Right.
things like that.
Right.
Chaplin had the cane and the baggy pants. Lloyd was dressed to the nines as
Right.
as a normal, average human being who
Right.
somehow then winds up hanging from a clock.
Right.
You know.
Right. Exactly.
So these guys all were different. Today, everybody's trying to imitate somebody else. You know, and
Not everybody.
not everybody, but a great deal of people. You know,
Right. He's the next so and so. He's the next this.
everybody has to be the next something, don't they?
Right.
You know, I had people who said to me, everybody always used to say when there was a new comedian coming up, oh, he's the next Lenny Bruce.
Right.
That was the thing you held up as the icon, was
Right.
Lenny Bruce. And I had seen Lenny Bruce, and I was a fan of Lenny Bruce, and I owned all his comedy records, and I would look at these people and go, have you ever listened to Lenny Bruce?
Right.
You know,
Right.
what do you mean this guy is the next Lenny Bruce? You know, I mean, and so like Sam Kinison came on, they went, oh, he's the next Lenny Bruce. I went, no, he's not.
No.
He's not even doing what Lenny Bruce did.
Right.
And then somebody came along that I said was the next Lenny Bruce.
Who was that?
Bill Hicks.
Oh yeah.
Bill
Bill
Hicks.
Hicks was special.
Now people are going, who's Bill Hicks? Well, who's Bill Hicks is he's dead. He died at 32 of pancreatic cancer.
That's right.
And he was, when I first heard him, I said, this is it. Because his attitude, the direction he was coming from, the kind of things he based his material on, which was outrage, very much Lenny Bruce.
Right.
And,
Right.
And when he died, I literally felt really bad because he was so good.
Right.
And you know that. You've seen him perform.
Right. I worked with him.
You probably middled for him or something, you know?
Yeah.
You'd have to middle for him because you wouldn't want to follow him.
Right.
And everybody goes, well, who's Bill Hicks? Well, I always say, go to YouTube, type in the name words Bill Hicks, and start watching. By the time you're through, you're going to be a Bill Hicks fan, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So.
If you're a comedy fan, you'll be a Bill Hicks fan.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But getting back to America and culture, I often felt it was this country's a cultural sewer for the most part. You know,
For the most part.
You know, it's hard to say it living in New York because we have the theater, we have the Metropolitan Opera, we have the this, and we have the that, and we have jazz clubs, and we have music clubs, and all. We have all of that. So to say it's a cultural sewer here, no. But go to New Jersey and it is.
Yeah.
You know.
The Garden State.
Yeah. I mean, anything outside of New York is not cultural. And many times I often wondered, you know, I was brought up in California, so I never knew New York until my mother brought me here when I was a kid, but I barely remember it.
Right.
Okay. But she was, this town is pretty good when it comes to culture.
Right.
San Francisco, you know, what did we get? We got the road shows of all the great musicals, you know.
Right.
Nobody ever.
Same thing with Boston.
The only time a musical ever started in San Francisco was Peter Pan with Mary Martin. They actually
Is that right?
They actually wrote it and did it out of town first in San Francisco, and then moved it to Broadway. But outside of that, I can't remember anything that opened up first in San Francisco.
Well, there's shows that open up in Boston and then move to New York.
Well, that's your out-of-town tryouts.
Right.
Yeah. I think Peter Pan was actually created in San Francisco for San Francisco. And
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And then it did so well, they said, hey, bring it to Broadway. And they brought it to Broadway.
Hmm.
Yeah. Whereas in the case of all those other shows like Boston, I think Philadelphia is another town where they do it. Is it's out of town tryouts, and a lot of plays and musicals, by the way, die in those out of town tryouts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, people say it's not working.
Right. Only the cream of the crop end up in New York.
Yeah, yeah. But and even here in New York, you know what's getting terrible in New York?
What's that?
Is you go to Broadway and everything there is what we call them are bridge and tunnel shows. In other words, they're created for the bridge and tunnel crowd, the people who come over from New Jersey or are traveling to New York on vacation who want to see a show. So you have things like what was that thing about the Four Seasons, Jersey Boys?
All right.
Very big, but nobody in New York City wanted to go see it.
Right. Right.
And that was a bridge and tunnel show. They did something on Carole King that I went to see, which I thought it was abysmal. That's a bridge and tunnel show. In other words, something with familiar people, about familiar people. You know, this is a show about the Four Seasons. Oh, I'd love to see that. I love the Four Seasons, you know. And then the whole show isn't original music. It's like all the songs they sang, done by a bunch of people who didn't do them. So, yeah.
Who they doing a show? The Temptations are doing one now.
I think they did it and it's gone. The Tina Turner thing, I think, is gone. That kind of died fast. Some of these shows die fast, others last forever. The Carole King thing went on for like 10 years.
They're doing one with Neil Diamond now.
Yeah, they are. And you know, they never say, hey, we're doing a thing on Carole King. Why don't we go get Carole King?
Right.
You know, no, they go get an actress to play Carole King, and she sings all of Carole King's songs. And I'm going, you know, why should I be here in a theater when I can stay home and just put on a CD, you know, and listen to the same stuff? So this is what we call bridge and tunnel shows. they're for the yutzes that come in from out of town, and they want to appeal to that crowd.
Right, right.
But we're going next week though to see Company, which is Stephen Sondheim.
What's that about?
It's another one of Sondheim's musicals, but it's supposed to be very good. I can't remember what it's about in particular, and I'm glad I don't, because now I can be surprised by it. But I mean, there were some people who did great shows. People like Sondheim,
Right.
but believe it or not, they didn't have as much success as, say, Jersey Boys. I mean,
Jersey Boys, I think, is still running in smaller cities.
I think it's closing finally here in New York. I think it's on its 80th cast, but I mean, am I going to complain about it? No, people are getting work,
Right.
But when you compare that to a Sondheim, Sondheim did brilliant stuff, just brilliant stuff. And Marjorie was thinking, because she buys these tickets for her girlfriends who come to town once a year, and they all go to a Broadway show. So she
Right.
was looking around for a Broadway show, and they said, well, let's go see Company. And they thought, shall we go see Company? Shouldn't we go to see Company? They then waited too long because Sondheim died. And the day
Oh,
he
really?
died, the ticket price doubled.
No, I'm sure.
So we're going to a very expensive Broadway show next week, and it's Company, and I'll let you know how it is. Okay.
Yeah, please do.
But I just I mean,
Is Wicked still playing there?
I think Wicked's still here. Yeah.
I know it's in Boston.
That's another Bridge and Tunnel show.
Right.
Maybe not so much so when it started off, but when it became very popular, everybody goes, "Oh, it's a Wizard of Oz,"
Right. From the witch's perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's about the two sisters,
Right.
right? I guess I've never seen it, but I mean, it's supposed to be a pretty good show, all things considered. I think if I went to see it, I'd go, "Oh, why are we going to go see Wicked?" And then after it was over, I'd say, "Hey, that wasn't bad.
That was all right."
That was all right." I mean, a show doesn't last that long. Well, I don't know. The shows that lasted that long that suck. Yeah. So, Cats, that sucks.
Is that still playing?
Is it still? I don't think so. No. But
Finally.
Well, I always hated what's his name, the guy that did Cats. I always thought he was terrible. Now I can't even remember his name. I'll remember it in a minute. But what I wanted to do was go to see Cats, and then on the way out go, "This sucked." And when somebody said, "Why did it suck?" I said, "Those weren't cats. Those were people."
Yeah.
I thought I would, what was it that Paul Newman in the first episode of Letterman, when he went to CBS, stands up in the middle of the audience and he says, "Hey, is this the singing? There are no singing cats here." And they say, "No, that's across the street." And he said, "Oh, I got in the wrong theater," and he got up and walked out.
Who's that, Paul Newman?
Yeah, that was his cameo. Yeah. Oh, where are the singing cats?
That's funny.
Yeah, but so I always used to have a joke about it. Like I went to see Cats, and guess what? They got people being the cats. I thought it was going to be. I love cats. I wanted to see real cats perform. But it's kind of a terrible show, I think.
Oh, that's a show I have no interest in ever seeing.
No. Here we're talking about theater, folks, and most of you people don't give a good goddamn.
Right. If it's not on Netflix, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, you're right. So anyway, so when are we going to do your Netflix special? You ought to do it,
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah. And then I take the tape over to Netflix, and they go, "Who's he?"
Right.
And I said, "Well, I had to do it with my GoPro, but it's pretty good."
Right.
But it's just rough for older comics now. It really is. I hate to keep bemoaning this thing, But, when I talk to Slayton, I understand how bad it is. I mean, do you feel the ageism?
Oh, absolutely.
So if you were younger and you walked in there, they'd pay attention to you, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Absolutely. Because we're older, they feel we don't have a finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Well, my argument has always been that funny is funny.
Right.
Funny,
Period.
funny doesn't change. You make somebody laugh, that's the job. If they don't
What about,
laugh, if they don't laugh, you didn't do your job.
right.
You know? And
Mom's Mabley was funny when she was older.
yeah, but we in the old days we actually respected age in performers.
Right.
We George Burns. How old was he when he was still doing stand up? He was in his
Oh, yeah.
late 90s. Okay? And with the thing they don't understand and the thing we don't value in this country is that with age, okay, with age, you get you get your chops. You really have become a virtuoso.
Right.
Like somebody said to me, boy, when he was 25, I said Eric Clapton's a great guitarist. They said, yeah, but I'd like to hear him when he's 40. And of course, Clapton got better and better and better. So what's the big deal?
Right.
A guy like you, how many years have you gone up on a stage and done comedy? Forever.
Right. Since 81.
Yeah. You probably do it better than a guy who's 20.
Oh, yeah.
How good were you when you were 20 or 25?
Right.
You were still
Well,
learning.
I was drunk.
Well, yeah, but you were also still learning.
Right.
You
Oh,
know.
yeah, absolutely.
And so I mean that goes on. And you go, well, the older a person is, maybe the better their chops are. And
Right.
Quite frankly, I think that some of the older comics that I see are at the peak of their powers. The only problem is they have no place to do it,
Right.
and that's the problem.
Right.
I feel sorry for any comic who's over the age of 25. Everybody goes, "Oh, what a wonderful comic he is." I just saw somebody. He's 53 actually. Is doing quite well. Bill Burr.
Right.
Yeah, but he's also very good. And he's been around for a while.
He's
But
been around for a while, that's for sure.
but when
Did he just do a new Netflix special?
I'm sure he did. He's doing them all the time.
Right.
But I still I have to say that when he reaches 70, he's going to find it harder to find venues.
Right.
I mean, how much do you see Lewis Black these days?
Oh, hardly at all.
Yeah, and I think that's because of age, not because he isn't one of the funniest men alive.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So we do not revere what age does. What age does is it brings you virtuosity. I can't say right now I'm at the peak of my powers because I'm not doing a daily radio show.
Right.
But I listened to myself back at Sirius in my last years, and I was as good as I ever was at that point. So we really should respect aged performers and not lock them out. But these clubs go, no, plus when they hire a younger comic, they don't have to pay him as much.
Right.
That's their other thing.
That's a big part of it too.
Yeah. Here I asked Bubbles because I played the punchline a couple of weeks ago or something like that, and I said, "How much did they pay you?" And I didn't ask him that. I asked him, "How much are they paying you these days?" And he says, "The same price that I was getting 20 years ago."
Right. 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 Right.
In other words, it hasn't gone up. They've just
Right.
kept it at a certain level and not moved from that level. Because I was asking him, what does a middle act pay? I think is what it was, which he is, and he said, well, the opener gets 50 a show, and the middle act gets 100, and the headliner gets whatever he can get,
Right.
a couple of thousand maybe a week. And he said, I'm making the same money today for being a middle act that I made at that same club 20 years ago.
I believe it.
Well,
I believe it.
not a great business to be in.
The last time I played Yuck Yucks up in Canada, I was getting the same pay that I got when I went up there in '87.
And it's still called Yuck Yucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only other one that had a worse name was Uncle Funny's Chuckle Hut. I love
Oh, really?
That. Yeah, yeah.
Where was that?
That was in Florida.
Never heard of it.
Uncle Funny's. Yeah. Anyway, hey, another great time with Stephen Kravitz. I appreciate it, Steve.
Thanks, Alex. I love doing it.
Steve Kravitz, ladies and gentlemen. He's playing at the VFW. Bye.
This is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network, now in its 7th year. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Ah, yes. There's Steve. I love Steve, as you know. I always say that. But I'm serious about it, folks. I'm serious about it. Anyway, let me see here. I got to bring myself down a little bit. You don't know what I'm talking about. Let me see here. And then we'll probably get here. Here we go. Let me bring it down a little bit here. Where are we going? Oh, that's up, and that's down. There we go. I think we'll take it down one more. There we go. Okay, I think that's fine. All right. Hello. How are you? How you doing? Are you okay? All right. So I got this new computer, and I wish I could say it was wonderful, but so far I have no idea. I can't get the goddamn thing to work for me. I can get it to work, but I can't. I want to load in all the stuff that's on the machine that I have now, and then have it run look like this machine on screen, and it doesn't yet. So we'll have to wait and see. Okay, we'll wait and see. Over the weekend, I'm probably going to take this computer out and put the other one in and see what I can do to make it work. Okay, so that's that. We'll try that, and then if I can't get it all together again, then we'll know that Wednesday there'll be no show at all. Okay, but I've got until Wednesday to get everything working. All right, okay. Anyway, why am I so off here? Kind of like a little bit of it looks a little bit like I'm out of sync, but that hasn't happened in a long time. So anyway, I guess we're ready to go here. Let me okay, let me bring in some people. And I'm woozy tonight. I really am. I've been woozy a lot lately, and maybe it's just boredom, just maybe plain old-fashioned boredom. All right. But anyway, here's my friends that start me out. Jeff is always here. Alan's here, and of course Josh Wheeler. Hello, Josh. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Yeah, fine. Did you hear that? Did you hear did you hear the January 6th show yesterday? Did you watch it?
I did see, yeah.
Yeah, I was disappointed they didn't have a theme song, you know.
Yeah, that would have been a nice touch.
Yeah, you know, little theme song. But anyway, what did you think?
I didn't particularly like the moving it to nighttime sort of deal. I mean, I don't really think that was necessary. However, all that aside, the substance of it was very good. I mean, I thought, in the opening there, it was just a little bit, the chairman and everything. I don't think they needed to talk as long as he did and some stuff like that. But like I said, nitpicking, here and there. But I mean, the substance that, they had is obviously pretty good, because, that's what happened. I mean, the facts there are pretty clear. And, the evidence is large. So, as far as substance, they did a very good job because they have a lot to work with. I don't know that I care for the way that it'll be rolled out, but aside from that, I think okay.
Well, you think maybe there's a little bit of a problem here of too many people thinking they're beating up on Trump as opposed to making a case?
A little bit.
You
I
know?
mean,
I mean, not
I
that I'm.
think that, um, look, I think Trump has a large, a large responsibility, but I think that they would just probably be better served if they would just sort of lay it out more so the way Liz Cheney did than the chairman, and just let people reach that what I would consider to be a likely conclusion on their own, rather than trying to steer you toward that conclusion. So it has a bit of a prosecutorial bend to it, where the prosecutor is almost trying to sway the jury, but I don't think in this case, that's not really what this is. This is a hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So a hearing should be designed to present information to the American people. So I think it's a little bit over the center line of the road in that regard.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, I mean, Trump bears responsibility. So I mean, I'm not gonna act like it's completely crazy. I mean, I think a few of the things that they've done, I don't particularly care for as a matter of my preference, but I'm not saying that it's completely out of control. I thought Congresswoman Cheney did a good job. She just said, here's what we have. I mean, I think that approach would be good, well served. So hopefully that's how it continues when they get to some of the other people and all that kind of stuff, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. I just felt that it was a little. I'm trying to think about what the people we have to convince would think of it.
Mm-hmm.
The people who aren't exactly convinced that he did anything wrong.
Right.
And what you have to do to make them be convinced, because it's obvious he did do stuff that was wrong. I think can you name another president of the United States who tried to overthrow the government?
No.
I mean, come on.
No.
Fox didn't.
No, I mean, look, he definitely should not have been engaged in any of that. For sure. He certainly, did. I mean, he did what I thought that he would do. He didn't want to give up and leave. And a lot of this, sort of going back and trying to act like it wasn't as big a deal as it was is complete nonsense. And, he surrounded himself with a lot of arrogant people who, were just his ass kissers, who told him a lot of what he wanted to hear. And then it got out of control. I mean, I just think that as they go along, they just need to be very careful, is all I'm saying, of letting it, develop into some circus, or being, overtly open to Trump. Just put it out there and let people reach their conclusions.
I think what you have to avoid is looking like you were bashing them.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, look, you can continue to play the tape of him saying things and doing things. I mean, okay, because that's fair game, because he did it, right? It's in the public record. I mean, he went somewhere and he said something, or he wrote something and put it out. That's all in the record. I mean, you can use as much of that as you want, but just be very careful not to try to attach much commentary to that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, am I making any sense there?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying they did a whole lot of that yesterday. I'm just saying that's what they need to be careful with. They need to just make sure that they don't let it evolve so that it looks more like an episode of Rachel Maddow than it does a congressional hearing. That's all I'm saying.
Yep, you're right.
I mean, just be very careful with that. And I think that enough reasonable people will reach the conclusion that you or I or other people would like him to reach, and that is that he is very much at fault, as are a lot of other people, okay? But I'm just saying, a major player, and even if you don't want to say prosecute and all this other stuff, it's fine. But at least then in your mind, you would say, okay, it's over with, and he's gone, and he needs to stay gone. Now, look, there are a contingent of people in the country that I don't care what they play on there, they want him back, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, my mother, I don't care what anyone says, what anyone shows her. I don't care if Donald Trump gets on there and makes a full confession. She will suddenly find religion and say, "Oh my God, he was a mistake, and he confessed, and I forgive him." And Trump 2024, you know what I mean? I mean, there's going to be people like that. So those minds aren't going to get changed.
But I just don't think what kind. I mean, I hate to, say this about your mother. What kind of moron it takes to not see that this guy was doing something terrible to this country?
Well, yeah. Look, I mean,
that his job as president, above and beyond anything else, is to preserve and defend the democracy.
That's the oath, correct?
And I don't think he did any of those things. He tried to subvert it.
Yeah.
And anybody who can't see that is I hate to say this about your mother, a fucking moron.
Well, yeah. Look, I mean, that's that's why we don't really we don't discuss it. I mean, because I don't know that I really understand it. I mean, when I was young, my parents, we come from almost from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And neither one of them finished high school, and we didn't have much, but they made a life for themselves without an education,
mm-hmm.
and without a lot of other things, and they were able to build some stuff up. And there was such a period of time where they were very good supporters of the Democratic Party and things like that, and Hillary Clinton for a time. My mother loved Bill Clinton and all that stuff. But, I think what happened was, the latent racism that lays within certain parts of our country and certain parts of my own family came out during the Obama administration, and, they never got back to it. So, where I live, they have always worried about Mexicans coming to take their jobs. Because like I said, my family wasn't lawyers. They weren't surgeons. They weren't, engineers. They were laborers, and they were. I'm serious.
I don't
look,
get.
That's a legitimate. It's a legitimate concern to think that someone's going to come take your job and do it for less. I mean, that's a worry that Americans are allowed to have. But when it evolves into hating those people, that now, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, the jobs they're taking, Josh, are the jobs nobody wants.
Well, a lot of it was, but I mean, but look, my father was an HVAC installer in new house construction, and, Mexican Americans moved into that business years ago, and, they will sleep at the house all night so that they can wake up. I mean, I'm serious. They will sleep in new houses in sleeping bags with a whole crew of them because their brother is the guy that is working in the house next door that's doing the drywall. So look, it was a concern. I mean, but I'm just saying it started like that. And then Trump came along and he said things out loud that they had thought in their minds, for a long time, but hadn't really said,
Mm-hmm.
at least not out in public. I mean, don't get me wrong. I heard it living in the home, but, and it just took off from there. And they think that they see him as the only person that would, say what they had been thinking, and, the protector of everything they hold dear, and so on and so on and so on. I'm sure everybody's got their own reasons for why they voted for him, but I'm telling you, a lot of people, that's what it has to do with.
Yeah.
So no matter what you say or show, that is how they're not going to care, But that's not the country. That's his 27 or 28%, right? I mean, that's his polling numbers that you saw throughout his presidency, where no matter what, he had that 27 to 29 Occasionally you'd see it up there in that 31, 32% range, that no matter what, I mean, during impeachments, during what, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
All those people were going to be with him. It just doesn't matter. Those are his, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue. And, you know, that's those people.
Yeah.
You know, so that's a small you know, it's not a small percentage, but I mean, that's not the country. So
those are the people that Fox tries to preserve, and Fox didn't. They didn't broadcast that. They kept their Tucker on, and they didn't broadcast the.
Oh yeah. I would dare to say. I mean, I haven't asked, and I'm sure as hell not going to. I would dare to say my mom has seen. She probably hasn't seen 2 minutes of those hearings.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that
they're trying to preserve that 27% or whatever, plus whatever
Right.
they get.
I see no reason why Fox didn't run it in this respect. Let me just turn on my mic here.
They ran it for that exact reason, though.
Well,
They
but what
wanna
I'm
preserve
saying
that
is,
27% and try and build on it.
well, what I'm saying is that the reason why they didn't, I'm trying to turn their air conditioning down so it doesn't obliterate me. The thing is that Fox should have run it, and then
Sure.
had their guys go on and comment about it. You know, and they put their spin on it, say it was not a bunch of crap. But run it anyway. Don't seem like you're avoiding the news.
Well,
And
they did
I'll tell you
exactly
what
that.
I hate. I hate the Republicans. I hear these guys like I can't think of the names of them now. I'm so out of it tonight. Who just make a big case out of the fact that, well, what good can a hearing be if there aren't any Republicans on there? Well, you were asked to join the party, and you didn't want to join, and you didn't
Well,
want
there
to
are two.
join, so you would have the ability to gripe now, about no Republicans being there. You were asked to the party. There was a place at the table for you.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are 2 Republicans on the committee. and
Yeah,
those are the only two that they
they're
accept.
they're considered traitors to the party because they went
Well,
on the
right.
because
Yeah.
they
Right.
went on the committee.
Right.
And the only real retort comments that I saw is, why aren't they talking about the inflation? Why aren't they talking about gas prices? Just total diversions that I saw.
Well, I mean, I've been at home all week and working on stuff, and I play C-SPAN in the background all the time, and I can tell you right now they've been playing hearings on committee hearings on the budget that's been proposed all week, and all the various subcommittees that have jurisdiction over certain parts of the budget, and they've been talking about the inflation all week long.
right,
So,
right.
I mean, it's that's what I'm saying. It's there. It's those tweets are nonsense. They're lies. C-SPAN shared some tweets last night, from Republican members and Democratic members, but Republican members of Congress, and some of them are just laughable, Oh,
Yeah.
I see they've got time to show up for their nighttime hearing, but where have they been these last 2 years where they get to vote by proxy?
Exactly.
As someone who has
Exactly.
C-SPAN on all the time, I can tell you right now that I have seen just as many Republicans stand up and the speaker say, for what reason does the gentleman from Illinois rise? And the gentleman from Illinois say, Mr. Speaker, as the designated member for Congressman so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, I am authorized as their designated voter to let the House know they vote
Correct.
yay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so that's nonsense, but that's the game. I mean, I wish that if we could ever get away from that, and get that back to
It's the
where
neener
it was
shit.
in the 50s and 60s, we could make some good progress. But since the late 80s, early 90s, when that sort of thing happened, where you just every single thing has to be exploited and demonized. I mean, they squeeze every last drop of blood out of every last body they can. It's not healthy, and that's the big problem. But that's where it is right now, because those are the people that we have chosen. So we got to try to choose better people. But I mean, those are the sort of things that you see. I mean, look, if you don't think there should be a hearing, then go on television, and if you're a member of Congress, and say why you don't think there should be a hearing, and make a case for it and act like an adult. But if you want to start all this, like you said, well, where's the hearings on inflation? Well, like I said, I've watched a dozen of them this week. They got time to show up for nighttime hearings, but they couldn't show up and vote the last 2 years. Baloney, okay? The evidence is there. It's on tape. Oh, well, where's the hearing about Biden's botched Afghanistan withdrawal? Oh, you mean like all those committee hearings the House and Senate Armed Services Committee had for 6 weeks after that? And the 1,400 appearances y'all made on Meet the Press and CNN this morning complaining? I mean, come on. All that was covered, right? Mm-hmm. And it was covered from one end to the other. I mean, so all that is just made up, exploited nonsense. It's taking something that's not an issue and trying to make it an issue so that people will not pay attention to the real issue. And the real issue is the events that the committee is presenting to you. So just, you just have to ignore it. I mean, I don't think that stuff is going to succeed long term with voters. I mean, even if Republicans win a majority in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, this November, it's not going to be because I think they tricked people into it with tweets like that and their game playing. It's going to be because of other issues, real issues. Because I don't think anyone's paying attention to much of that because it's all garbage. I mean, it's what it is. It's junk.
So let me ask you an important question. Is there a Warriors game tonight?
Yeah, it's just about over.
Oh, okay. Well, then we should get some people coming on soon.
Oh.
I have a little cough here. I hope I didn't get COVID at the hospital.
Well,
Huh?
I'll give you my 10 cents on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I look, because I listened to it the other day.
Yeah.
And not 100%, but maybe 80%. And every time I watched it, I said, I've already heard this once before. Maybe there's a little better graphics and videos that I didn't have, but there was not too much that I would call it new information for me. Mm-hmm. And I suspect for a lot of you guys, the same issue. But there's a lot of people who really have never seen this stuff. And the question is, they may never see anything or because they're not looking at it.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Well, I don't know what anybody felt. I mean, I don't understand the popularity of Trump because I don't know what anybody sees in him. He didn't do anything for anybody.
Jeez.
It wasn't like he made your life better as a result. He turned the whole presidency for 4 straight years into a comedy show. But one which at the end you couldn't laugh any longer at. It got very terrible.
At the end of the day, he did exactly what Josh was saying, though. He said what people think, and that's what his popularity came to. That's what it was.
Well, what was he saying that people think?
Oh, just about everything he ever came out of his pie hole. I mean, there's so many people that were thinking the things that he would say, and that's all they did was, yeah. And then they would come out of the woodwork, and he was egging them on.
Yeah.
These people were sitting in the woods waiting to do this shit. And when he would get up there and start saying this stuff, that's when they started creeping out of the woods.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
I mean, just
that's
stuff
all.
Like they're gonna close your factory and send your job to China. They're gonna bring a Mexico.
You know what? I'm gonna stop it with an executive order. I'm not gonna wait for any kind of Congress.
I mean, they can't close it up and send it to China, so they're just gonna bring a Mexican here to do it.
We're gonna close the border and stop all that stuff.
Charlottesville, a lot of fine people on both sides. I mean, look, I'm not gonna tell anybody, a big secret here. There are a lot of white people sitting around in America when that went down being like, hey, look, Emma's ran some of them niggers over. I mean, look, I'm just giving you the facts of how some of America thinks. I mean, I'm not saying that I do or that it's right, but that's, it's not uncommon to hear
do you think
stuff like that.
this attitude right now is exacerbated by a black president?
Well, I think that's what set some people off, or I don't know if it set them off. I don't know if it made them angry. It just made them.
I think it lit the fuse.
Indifferent to, I mean, their status quo was changing, and that's not comfortable for a lot of people. So it got them to veer off their well-beaten path, and they got off of it and said, oh, well, maybe what these other guys have been saying isn't so bad. I've kind of felt that way. And then, once the toe was in the water, and now they're all swimming around in it, So, I mean, that's sort of how I see it based on, anecdotal experiences around, people that I know and things like that. I mean, that's not some kind of scientific evidence or whatever, but there's no doubt that Trump's presidency and his campaign to the presidency is built upon fear. Okay? I mean, everything that he did was about fear. I mean, when you have to have an inauguration and you have to put a line in your inauguration that says, "This American carnage stops now," that's what is that? I mean, in an inauguration? I mean, in the midst of a civil war, Lincoln had to say, let us bind up the wounds of the nation with charity for all and malice towards none, right? But Donald Trump had to say, this American carnage stops now. I mean, and a lot of folks said, preach. I mean, that's, what is that? I mean, that's, it's not historically correct for one, but it's just, that's built on fear. That's built on the exploitation of people's innermost fears and how you can exploit them and make them think that you're going to do something about it. Okay. You're going to close up the border because if you don't, next Tuesday, you might go into work and your boss might laugh at you and say, I found a Guatemalan to do what you'll do for $8 an hour. You're fired. I mean, I'm just saying there are a lot of people that get up in the morning and that's what they worry about, even though it's not going to happen. But they've got themselves convinced in their mind that it could happen. And then someone like Trump comes along and says, oh, it's going to happen. We've got the evidence, drone footage of all the Guatemalans walking up here to take your fucking jobs, and they shit themselves and vote for Trump. I mean, that's how you get to where it is. I mean, you might not see it in certain parts of the country. You probably don't see it in New York City, because I don't think in New York City people worry about that. But in the Midwest, in Iowa, in all those places where there are a lot of people who do work jobs like that, they do worry about stuff like that. I mean, it's a really legitimate concern, and he exploited it. I mean, I don't know. We could probably sit around and think of some issues, but if the Republicans had rejected him, he would have found Democratic issues that were just as exploitable and probably ran on that.
Yeah. Yep.
I guess, but it's just, and look, they masterfully managed to finally, really super duper exploit the religion and the Christian conservative in the court issue. I mean, they played out for all it was worth. I mean, he got a lot of votes based just on that in itself. There is a large contingent of the country, especially in the South and in the Midwest, that will sell whatever they need. They'll sell their soul for a judge that will do what they think is right when it comes to guns or abortion. I mean, they will let you do almost anything you want. I mean, for all the crying and moaning and groaning about Bill Clinton in the 90s and all his moral failures, if he'd have just went on television and said, next Supreme Court justice that kicks it, I'm going to find, William Rehnquist's fucking clone and appointed to the Supreme Court, they'd all been like, oh, what the? It was just one blowjob. It wasn't. I mean, he's a weak man. It's okay. I mean, you know, it would have just, they would have suddenly had fucking amnesia when it came to all that. I mean, I know they would have because I've seen it. I mean, so, you know, I've sat in churches where people said, oh my, I just do not understand how this country can trust a man who can't even run his own household, his own marriage. He can't even keep his fly zip with the nuclear launch codes. And fast forward, not 15, and who did you elect? They all voted for Trump. I mean, it's hypocrisy at its finest.
Oh yeah, they excuse
That's the
Trump.
American way.
They excuse the way they excuse Trump's pussy remark. You know, any other person would have just been out of the race immediately with something like that.
At one time, yeah.
Yeah. What happened to Alan?
He was on the phone. I think he had to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you know, they'll sell themselves out for whatever to get something that they want. I mean, it's you know, which in a lot of ways is sort of an American tradition. People will a lot of times give up their principles to get something that they want because they say, you know, where does principles ever get you and stuff like that. And I get it. It's hard to not take that temptation a lot of times. But look, I mean, that's what happened. I mean, we know how Trump got there. I think it was all that kind of stuff. But what really helped him get there was, you know, that the media really helped that along because he would say those things that people that we've just discussed. And those things were different than what most people had been saying for quite a long time. And because of that, they were controversial or exploitive or whatever. And then the media would play them over and over and over again and talk about them and talk about them and talk about them. And all those people got to see it over and over again. And they got it in their mind. I mean, he probably could have got elected president and damn near not spent $1. You know, I mean, CNN and MSNBC gave him just as much free airtime as Fox News did, you know. I mean, for as much as they're onto it now, I still remember in early 2016 or whatever, him sitting on the stool at Morning Joe when they were out somewhere and Mika's face was like, Donald Trump, you know, and now she's like, oh, what did I do? You know, they're a Johnny come lately on Donald Trump, but, you know, I guess at least they showed up to the party.
Yeah.
But I mean, they used to pal around with him years ago and shit like that.
Yeah.
You know, and they had him on the fucking Morning Joe every chance they got until he started acting like a real complete jackass, and then they woke up. But by then it was too late.
Well, you know, I mean, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The people who made Trump president was MSNBC. More than Fox ever did.
They did their part.
You know, every day he was the subject matter for 4 years. And for a year prior to that when he was running for president. They gave him the more free publicity than he could possibly have ever gotten by buying advertising, which he didn't have to do. It was the cheapest campaign ever run.
Yeah, probably.
You know, and he got up every morning and said, what can I say that's so ridiculous? MSNBC is going to be talking about it all day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, look, at the end of the day, people voted for him. And I think they like we just talked about, they did so because they had some, you know, deep down different things that he brought to the surface, and they voted for him. But the media certainly helped ferment that process, you know. I mean, you know, so I'm not going to blame the media. I mean, people voted for him. That's what Americans chose to do. But it is certainly evident that they had they did their part to help it along.
Hello.
And probably made money in the process.
Hello there, John Larkin.
Yeah, I was going to add if Trump gets busted and gets thrown in jail, MSNBC is going to go out of business because they'll have nothing to talk about anymore.
Well, I'll tell you something. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know that he's going to see any time in jail for this.
I think he is. I got bets that he is.
Well, you're probably going to lose some money.
I don't know. Well, the bet is either he goes to jail first or he becomes president again.
Well, I don't think he's going to become president again. I don't think the Republican Party is going to let that happen. But right now they're in his corner because they got midterms to win. But come the presidential time, I don't know that he's going to win the primaries.
Maybe not.
They took some information, some polls that were taken that said DeSantis could beat him to get the nomination. Which that's even sadder. Okay, went from the pot to the frying pan.
Don't forget, he lost the House, the Senate, and the presidency in his term. And how they can bet on another doing that shit again, that's crazy.
Well, he has too much baggage.
Yep.
But I think more substantially what should come out of the hearings, I guess to move on from Trump, is the one thing that they do need to figure out is why, regardless of who the crowd was or who started it, who let it on, doesn't matter, okay? If whoever showed up, why they were allowed to do what they did. How was our Capitol allowed to be breached and controlled by, a group of people for as long as it was with no counter assault or no way to stop it? I mean, that to me is the more important question. Okay, because that's what bothers me, because I remember when it happened live telling my wife, I've just always assumed that somewhere nearby there had to be, since 9/11, there had to be a counter assault team that would take care of this kind of stuff, but one never came. So I have to wonder if there either wasn't one, which I have no idea how one cannot exist after 9/11 happened, or if there really was one and the military said, well, there is one, but we can't use it for this because they're not actually in there shooting up the congressman and all that. We can't use it for this because if we do, it's an open look for the real terrorists. I'm not saying they were, I'm just saying, okay, for the real terrorists and the next Al-Qaeda or whatever, who really do try to pull this stunt, and now they're going to have seen our playbook. They're going to know exactly how long it takes us to get there. They're going to know what we show up in. They're going to know where we came from, and we can't use it for this. DC police is going to have to hold it off until we activate the guard and we get them there and all that. I don't know. I'm just saying, I just remember thinking, I don't understand how something like that can happen. And there wasn't already a team that was always ready to go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from like Joint Base Andrews or Fort like Belvedere, which is right down at Mount Vernon, all of which are 10-minute helicopter rides away, and how there wasn't someone there in 20 minutes with 60 guys already ready to go, and then another 60 are showing up in 5 more minutes and another whatever. I mean, I've never understood that.
Well, I thought that there was one and that the president had to activate it and he never did. And that maybe we'll find that out.
Well, yeah, I don't know. So I've just always wondered if there either really wasn't one, which I just can't fathom, or if there was and someone said, we can't use it for this because if a couple hundred terrorists ever show up at where they're going to know exactly what to do.
Yeah, because that makes sense. When I thought that there was some kind of I don't know if it was a military response, but it was a sub-military response that could be activated behind the DC police, that could have been activated, and I heard small bits of it right after, but they never were, and it had to be activated by the president, I believe, and it never happened. And then by the time it could have been, he told everybody that he loved them and to go home.
Yeah, because I've still been of the mindset that outside of the building, I sort of could have given some leeway, okay, but I've always been of the mindset that once they came inside the building, I'm sorry, but I'm completely fine with whatever happened after that happened. I mean, I don't care if they just shot 50 people. I mean, I'm sorry. When you bashed in the windows and came in, that's it.
I think they should have picked a few of those people off as they were just, when they.
No.
I mean,
I'm willing to lay down. They said right there, I'm willing to lay down.
Scattered like a
I mean, if you've forcibly entered the U.S. Capitol building,
government property, but there's enough signs.
So I mean,
they would have scattered like rats.
But I'm actually more interested in that part, I guess, than I am the political part. The Trump part, because I mean, look, Trump, stirred it all up. But I'm just saying how that they were able to make their way there and enter and occupy. I find, I mean, when we allow people to do that, that's what I'm saying. Like when this happens at an embassy somewhere else, it's a huge deal, right? They were fine with having Benghazi hearings, or they're fine with having hearings. How did they get into the embassy in Saigon, or how did they get into the embassy in Tehran, or whatever? I mean, when they were able to breach the building and at one end of the building run down the American flag and run up their own, we can't let that happen in an embassy. And the times that it has happened, it has been an incredible embarrassment. I mean, I find that the most shameful part, personally, of the entire ordeal, and that's the part that I would like to know.
And the Trump flag was about to go up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, I mean, I'm just saying it's a relatively, known tradition of honor that if we lose an embassy, someone has to do everything they can to take the flag. I mean, I know that sounds stupid, but I believe in that kind of stuff. I mean, you can't let that happen. And I mean, to let that happen in the Capitol, I don't know. I can't believe it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand how there was no counter assault. I mean, because what if it had been the White House? Okay, maybe it wasn't Trump. Maybe it was over different stuff. Maybe it was our people and they went to kill Trump. I'm just saying, could that many people get in the White House? I mean, what would they have done? Would they have fucking machine gunned him down then? Right? I mean, but there was a couple thousand of them, and how many people can they have at the White House? Well, I don't know, but I'm sure they've got something stashed away that comes out in that event. Well, why didn't they send those guys down there? I mean,
well, I got to tell you something. Let me just jump in here now. What went on there was something in which we weren't prepared to take care of it, because when you talk about the Capitol Police, when's the last time any of them had to pull a gun?
Yeah, right, exactly.
They never were trained for that.
No,
no
way.
And I think the way they reacted to it was admirable.
Yeah.
I mean,
but there should be some kind of a backup plan that, especially after something like 9/11 has happened. They've covered everything else. They've covered every building in downtown. They should be covering at least that building.
Well, as soon as you saw all those people walking down towards the Capitol, there should have been police there.
Yeah.
There should have been police
Right,
ready
yeah,
anyway, because
National Guard. They should have had the National Guard out there.
they probably didn't feel that a president of the United States would egg on a mob to attack the Capitol building. I just don't think they thought of that as a possibility.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that part is fine. Like, even if I conceded that argument, I'm just saying, how is there no plan so that just on a random Tuesday afternoon in May,
Yeah.
500 Al Qaeda members all decide to descend on Washington, D.C. together and just go into the Capitol and kill every fucking, I mean, the Senate and the House are in session. They're all there in the office buildings that are connected by, and just decide to just go fucking crazy. And there was no counter. I mean, what would happen if that happened?
Yeah,
Like, on that
we don't want to
particular
put a
day,
fence.
no one's expecting any violence. Nothing's going on big. It's just a regular day, just like September 11th was, right? Just a regular fucking day. And then all of a sudden something started. So there was no team that, if that started happening, you know, that the DC police's job is to basically engage in a shootout for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever the number is. It can't be much longer than that.
Mhm.
You know, that's your job. Your job is to engage, fire and maneuver for 10 or 15 minutes. And at that point, that's when the next phase that you don't know about, it's top secret, but we're just telling you that's the number. They're going to be here at that point or before. But did we not have that? I mean, I just can't believe that. Because
Well,
if that's the case, Al Qaeda should have, that's what they should have done.
The gal that was
Kevin?
testified last night said that herself. She wasn't trained for that.
Right.
And probably she wasn't trained for that because nobody considered that a possibility.
Right, right. It's an open building. And that's the way it should be. But you got to have some kind of a plan.
Well, part of the way you protect an open building like that is by expecting even the most extreme circumstances,
Sure.
which you never count on, but be ready for that, you know.
Yeah.
But
The White House used to be an open building too, but they've
as
been
bad.
fortifying that for years.
We've had a lot of bad presidents in my time, but none of them at any point would have ever thought about trying to subvert the democracy.
Right.
You know, and that's what this president did, and not out of any kind of ideological feelings. It was out of his own personal greed to stay president.
Right.
You know, and who knows what would have happened if he got elected to another 4 years? What would he do at the end of those 4 years? Try and find some way that he could get the power forever? Hey, they did it in Russia. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw some news stories today about some of the stuff that you're going to hear about at the next hearing on Monday is about they were scrambling on January 6th and 7th to try to find what legal powers he had to, you know, seize voting machines and replace them with other ones and rerun the election.
Mm-hmm.
After January the 6th, he still wanted to. He wanted us to all go back to the polls and vote again.
And redo. I want to redo.
I mean, but it's nonsense.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Did
it's
you hear
you know.
Did you hear they found the leaker of the Supreme Court decision?
They did.
Yeah, it was Kavanaugh. He went out for a few drinks after work, left his briefcase in a bar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He likes beer.
No.
He likes beer.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a great story though?
Oh Lord.
Boy, I hope I'm not coming down with COVID here. I was in that hospital room, that emergency room, for 12 hours. And I had the mask on the whole time. My mask was on. You know, so, I mean, can you still get it even though you got a mask on?
You found a Lysol when you got home? Did you drink some Lysol?
Yeah, I tried.
Okay.
I tried, but now
Did you do a test?
Huh?
Did you do a test?
No, I haven't done a test because my nose hasn't started dripping till just now.
Yeah, I got some kind of a cold going on right now, so that's why I did a test last night.
Yeah,
But it's negative. But
well, I
it's
think,
negative.
yeah, I'm lightheaded tonight, but you know, I mean, it could be that I'm not. I don't think I have it, but you know, I wore masks for the whole time there. So.
You can still get it. The mask only.
Well,
does
thank you
some-
very much. That makes me feel real good, Alan.
Sorry.
That makes me feel
Warriors
real good.
won.
And you know what you got to stop doing on this show, please? Don't give out medical advice on any level, because you're not a doctor. And I find that that's
I don't pretend to be. I just.
well,
happen to
but
know
no,
a
no,
lot
you
about
do
it.
you do pretend to be. You know,
No, I don't.
I mean, you got a guy on the show after us calling you doc all the time. What are people supposed to think?
Let them think what they want. I'm not a doctor.
Well, but then don't give
I
medical
know
advice.
a lot about medicine.
Well, then you shouldn't give medical advice. What I'm saying is because that's just one of the things I've always been sensitive about.
Okay.
That I don't want medical advice to be given out on a show that I do by somebody other than a doctor. You know, and then even sometimes I say not even that doctor, you know, because what the fuck does he know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
People are very impressionable because look at what Trump said with the bleach. I mean, some people will just listen to anything.
they did try the bleach. Some people did try bleach.
Yeah, in Phoenix or Vegas. Remember that? I was like, look, people are very impressionable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. People are very stupid. I think that's the word you really should
You're
be
right.
looking
I
for.
didn't want to say that. Yeah.
Let's not deny the stupidness of human beings in this country. What's with your lights there? Do you not have any lights on at all?
No, it's, it's the
John?
TV. The TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He looks
Oh,
like he's like
because
real
it's
window.
Yeah.
kind of like I'm watching a movie of you or something.
TV's in the background and it keeps on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should turn on the light.
Interesting.
Probably.
It's too hot. Too hot for lights.
Boy, oh boy.
Don't you
are
have air
in a good
conditioning?
mood Today.
Oh fuck no! In the Tenderloin.
You're in a good mood today, Alex. Boy, pick on me, pick on John,
No,
pick
no,
on everybody.
I'm not picking on him.
In the Tenderloin, hell no. We got open windows. That's about it.
Really? Why not a air conditioner in the Tenderloin?
Because it's an old building, you know. It's just an old crappy
Yeah, but you
building.
can put in, wall air conditioners,
Oh, you mean like a little?
Yeah,
What are they
like I
called?
got
a
here.
Dyson?
I don't have any central air conditioning in this apartment.
You mean like a little Dyson thing?
Not a Dyson thing. I've got like a big giant 1200 BTU behemoth.
Wow. Well, I don't know.
LG. You just put it in the window and hope it doesn't fall out.
Remember
a
in
swamp
Seinfeld,
cooler?
Yes.
What do they call them?
No,
Swamp coolers?
No, swamp coolers. Swamp coolers are you pour water into a swamp cooler,
Right. Yeah.
and then it keeps you cool for a while.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Can I talk about mechanical things?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So it's not 1,200 BTUs that wouldn't cool anything.
12,000.
12,000. There
Yes.
you go.
Yeah.
Got to make sure I'm not going to upset you by saying something.
Well, I went up BTUs because I decided I just wanted a little more cool for my money, And we
But
leave,
yeah,
huh?
in San Francisco, you only need an air conditioner like maybe 3 days the whole year.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
It
One
was,
of
it
the
was like
nice
nice.
things
It
about
was
an air
90 today.
Yeah.
Muggy. It was muggy last weekend in San Francisco. You turn the air conditioner on, take the moisture out of the air.
Now, what happens? Here's what I always wondered. Anybody here had a humidifier?
Oh, my mother did. Yeah.
I
Okay.
got a humidor.
Well, wait a minute. And how many here have had a dehumidifier?
She did that too.
Okay, so now what would happen if you put a humidifier and a dehumidifier in the same room?
And she had a fan going too at the same time.
Yeah, but what would happen if you had both those going? Wouldn't the dehumidifier make it not worth having the humidifier for?
It'd be a waste of energy.
It would be a waste of energy, exactly.
Yeah.
But I could sure use a dehumidifier in here as well as but usually an air conditioner takes care of that. So.
Yeah.
You know, when it gets hot by me now, Alex, me and my brother, we never even open the windows. I just keep the air on low and I close the blinds. Because once you open up, you get the hot air in. I can't take it. It's all stuffy.
Yeah.
It's like, you try to air the house out a little bit when it's cool. That's what I do. Like if it's cool out one day, I'll open the window just to air it out.
So how long has it been since your mother passed?
We like to say she's no longer with us, but over a year. Me and my sister were talking about it. We were walking.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think it was
Over 2 years.
No, a little over a year. She was gone. I think it was January 7th. It would have been a year. It was over a year, January.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's 2
Today was my
years, right?
father's birthday, so we walked to the cemetery. He would have been 85.
Well, you've handled it pretty well, you know?
Yeah, you know what? We thought about it, and you know what? You miss her, but it's like, you know what? It was just fate. What bothered me, I think, in the beginning was she died right. She got COVID right before, a couple of weeks before the vaccine, and it was just dumb luck. My sister was beating herself up because she caught it from probably school. It was just fate. I was kind of annoyed because when I was getting the vaccine, it was like she was so close to getting it.
Well, here's the thing that I got that hit me today. Our friend Shecky was going to go to Europe, and the reason he didn't go to Europe is because he had to take a COVID test in order to get back into the United States, and he didn't want to worry for his whole vacation that he wouldn't pass it. Right? Well, what did they say today, folks?
Sunday they're stopping it.
They're stopping it.
Yeah,
I guess it didn't do much, to be honest with you. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, at that hospital.
I hate when somebody asks a question and then somebody answers it. They don't like the answer.
What do you mean? I don't get what you're saying.
Can you still get COVID with a mask? Alan says yes. You say that's all I need. And then you go into don't talk about medical stuff. I mean, you know, my
I hear you make medical statements all the time, and I'm just trying to stop you from doing it because I don't think makes for a responsible broadcast. Okay, you know, I know that you know a lot about that stuff. Okay, I'm not denying that, but you're not a doctor, and I used to close people down in all the other shows I did on all the other radio stations when they would ever go on and start giving medical advice.
Now you know why nobody's here. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Remember the time you told
All right.
that lady?
I'll try to watch it. If I say something medical, slap me.
Yeah, well, it's just all that doc stuff over at Jack's show that kind of gets to me. But because then when you do say something about medicine, people think, oh, he's a doctor. He must know.
Okay, call me a doctor
You couldn't
then.
get a doctor.
Why? Do you need one? Call me a doctor. I think I need one. Thank you very much.
Dr. Bennett, yeah. I'll call you doctor.
I remember that time you got in a fight with that lady on Current Affairs because you said it's not really journalism, and she got all pissed off.
Really? Really?
Yeah,
Is it?
back in the Live 105 days.
God, I can't remember that. Tell you the truth.
I forgot her name, but
A radio station in San Francisco, Alex, Live 105.
Yeah, by the way, I want to yell at Matt Sheridan, who on the chat wrote, I think MSNBC turned down Alex for a job. That's why he has such a beef with them. No,
It's pick
never.
on everybody day.
Huh? As a matter of fact, I was on MSNBC for quite a while.
Yeah.
With, you ready for this, Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, wow.
Every Friday I was on with Tucker Carlson. Yeah.
on a show.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, no, MSNBC doesn't run shows. Yes,
Oh, I
a
thought
show.
I mean, yeah, I was thinking like a
So do
radio-
you think you
radio.
influenced him to be this idiot? No.
No,
He
no.
was the idiot before you came along.
Oh yeah, no question about it. Hey, that's it for tonight. I hope I don't have COVID. You think I have COVID? You want to put a
I don't think so.
Oh,
That's
okay.
just an opinion.
Oh, I don't want to be a doctor yet.
I don't want to be a doctor. Anyway, hey, listen.
That's for $12 at Walgreens.
That's it for tonight,
They're
boy.
free.
What a weird week this has been for me. 12, 13 hours in an emergency room.
You'll be fine next. Oh, I can't give medical advice.
No,
I'm sorry. You'll be fine
okay.
You'll be fine next week.
Just, I'm not trying to get on your case. I'm just trying to tell you that I don't like to have medical advice given on my show, other than by a doctor.
We gotta get a doctor.
I'm the closest thing you're gonna find on the show to a doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you want? Phil's medical advice?
No, not at all. Not
Get two
at all.
steaks and call me in the morning.
Hey, anyway,
That's all right.
thanks.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Jeff, and thanks to Josh for all your expert advice today. A big thank you to Kevin for being here once again, and for Tony to drop by, and of course John Larkin there in the Tenderloin of San Francisco, and of course our good friend Alan. Oh man, I'm out of it. Well, we'll see you again on Monday at.
Oh, Monday. Oh yeah, I'll be there. No, I won't.
Yeah, okay. Don't you dare.
I won't.
Okay, everybody, give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. And let me see here. Let me push this, and there I am. Okay, there they go. They're all fine folks, and we appreciate their participation, and they're caring about this program enough to do it. Anyway, that's it for now. Stay tuned for Jack Bishop. He's next. I'll see you Monday for the pop-up on Facebook at 4 o'clock, and then we'll see you again on Wednesday, same time, same station in life. In the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody.